What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cisco and Mike podcast. I don't know, Mike, 46 episodes in, and there's always one common theme that comes up in one form or another.
What is that?
Mental health.
Mental health, yeah.
And like we always say, we're not professionals, but today's guest is. she's a clinical social worker. She's licensed. She's a mental health speaker, creator, and a social media star. We got Jaqueline García joining us today.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you guys.
Excited, right?
I'm very excited.
First podcast. Do you feel a little nervous? Does it feel weird being on the other side of this?
First podcast in
Live in
person.
person, yeah.
Yes, honestly, super nice. Love the aesthetics. Love the colors. Very, very. It's giving. I am an interior designer.
That's all Kiko, okay?
I'll take credit for that one.
Yeah, that's also cool.
Anytime they have something negative, I'll just throw it at you.
Yeah, my corner.
But before we get in, we're going to take a deep dive today. I got a feeling, I don't know why. It's going to be one of those
You
episodes.
feel like crying today?
I think we all feel like crying, just from our
Hey,
conversation
if
before.
someone starts crying, let's just all
Just
start
cry?
crying.
All right.
Yeah.
I cried last night, right? So I'm good. I'm
Remember,
good.
cry on demand.
Cry on demand? Can you cry on demand?
No.
Yeah, I remember Kayla was telling us. She's an actress. She was like, yeah, I got to cry on demand. Like,
So what do you do? Like, what do you think of?
the saddest thing ever, like Bambi's mom,
That is pretty sad.
the fox
I
in the house.
cannot cry on demand, but when you get me crying, it's like nonstop.
I say it's done.
Oh, that's it. Like,
Are you the silent crier or the
it depends.
loud?
It depends the situation. It depends what I'm going through. I've had like the tears falling, the joy, like the I'm so proud of you and like crying. I've had the ugly cry, the messy cry, the don't fucking look at me cry.
The hateful cry? Like, I fucking hate this shit.
Yes.
Those are the worst.
Where it's tears, but it's anger tears. It's the angry tears.
You're crying because you're angry.
Well, I'm a Pisces too, so I feel like we're just very emotional beings. But recently, like, I've cried less, which has been, I guess, healthy for me. Crying is healthy in general, but growing up, I was like a chillona. So I think there was a lot of shame around that concept. And as I got older, I was like, you know what? Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to share how you're feeling. It's okay if your tears are because of joy or because of anger or because of any other emotion. So definitely a lot less shame. But maybe we'll talk about this later on. I started medication last year, and psychiatric medication. And it stabilizes your brain. So now, like, I won't cry because I see, a lonely dog outside. I used to cry for the littlest things.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, there's more in depth behind the action, which I'm okay with. Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting.
No, and that's something that you brought up a good thing, because in the military, I was in the military, and I have PTSD, and sometimes I talk to a therapist now, right? And a lot of the times, like, the meds didn't help me. They actually got me a little bit. I didn't like them. It made me feel a certain type of way. So
Stimulated you differently?
yeah. So what you being in the field, how does that shit work? Like, how do you know when somebody needs meds, or when it's just maybe like you just need to talk about things? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. So I can admit that for the longest time, I was like, I am not getting on meds, like, because there was so much stigma around mental health. Even like I talked to my parents, and I'm very open about like where I'm at in life with them, and they were like, oh, but you're still on medication. So I'm like, and my brain works, and my brain feels a lot more calm than before. It's less chaotic. And sometimes I feel like when it disturbs your impairment, when it impacts your life functioning, and it's getting in the way of you actually like showing up for work, interacting in relationships, like just being, even just like as little as doing your self-care routine, right? Depression, anxiety, disorders, like that's the umbrella. There's so many other diagnoses that fall under those two. And some people really need it. And I think if we just lessen the stigma and we actually try, and firsthand, like sometime I tried a medication like 3-4 years ago, and it didn't sit well with my body, and I stopped it. Then I gave it another shot after I talked to my doctor, and we talked about it openly and very like, these are my symptoms and this is what I feel inside. And she started me at a very low dose, and it's been literally what my brain needed. And I wish I would have started earlier, right? I wish I would have like been more opened about like, you know what, maybe I do need this. And I guess it's just different for everyone.
So I think that one of the reasons why it's, especially in our culture, it's we're receptive to take any medication porque tenemos miedo.
We don't even go to the doctor.
Exactly.
For checkups.
Exacto.
So, you know, especially with mental health, it's like, no mames, like, how is a pill gonna affect you? Pero you don't, and we don't understand. I think understanding, that's what we need.
It's also the judgment we're gonna face, in a sense, because it's no toma medicina, está loco, no. Tiene que tomar medicina porque su cerebro
Está zafado ese güey.
o es uno de los locos. You know, like people with schizophrenia, like bipolar, all that. Mamá Moro dice, no, son locos. You know, like están locos.
And a lot of this is genetic too. So like mental health, mental illness is genetic. Like me and my dad have had conversations very raw. And, you know, there's still some stigma around. It's gotten better with time. But we've had very open and honest conversations as of recent, like this year. And I'm like, well, like, I'm your daughter. And you and I are very alike, Dad, personality-wise. Yeah. Right? So some of these, like, symptoms and behaviors are linked with personality traits that go way back. And this is where, like, the intergenerational trauma comes in. And so I'm learning that you can break the cycle. And I'm not a parent yet. And I'm aware that, like, when I do procreate one day, right, that some of these personality traits are going to be passed down, and depending on who I'm with too, right? Like that DNA is going to mix. And
so okay, maybe I'm just new to this shit, but
I got a question too about that.
I know. So what you're saying is that, because, you know, okay, fuck, my mind's just like.
I think I know where you're going. No, can I say it? I think maybe
go for it.
Is there like a debate between nature versus nurture, like genetics and versus your environment growing up, or what you learn?
That's what I was gonna say, that because a lot of people say it's what you teach your kids, right? A lot of people say preach,
but it's also what they learn because they watch.
That's what I'm saying. It's the learning, the physical aspect of it. But you're saying there's a genetic part of it.
Yes.
So a person could grow up in a very stable, good environment, but because of his genetics, those traits are still going to be passed on?
Especially when it comes to schizophrenia, when it comes to bipolar, like the cluster ABC personality disorders, that gets a little bit tricky. Anxiety, this is why I said, like, anxiety and depression, it's an umbrella. And then there's a lot of different disorders behind those two.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, I mean, the DSM-5 is like our Bible, and it's like this big, and it's full of different diagnoses.
Wow. Before we continue, because this is getting interesting, I have a lot of fucking questions.
I said it before we take the deep dive.
Yeah. No. Before we go in there, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit more about you, like where you come from, what got you into this field. You seem very well versed in it, so
because actually that was one of the questions that somebody was asking. Like, they see your social media, you're always talking about mental health and giving tips, but they want to know about Jackie.
Yeah. That question is so complex. Like, I'm like, who the fuck am I? I'm still figuring that out. But, like, I grew up in Tijuana, Baja California. I was there until 11 years old. And in those, like, primarily years, a lot happened. Like, I still remember my childhood very vividly. And sometimes when you experience trauma, you can experience amnesia, which is memory loss, right? But on my end, I remember colors, things, dates, situations, like, so vividly. When I was little, I was a very creative. I person. So I used my imagination as a way of coping with what was happening at home. So I feel like that's where like the creativity and the imagination came. It's always been there. Then when my dad decided to come to the US, it was like a crisis moment. Like, ya no podemos estar aquí. We can't be here anymore. So we need to figure and change our life around. I was 11 at the time. I grew up in a home, a blended family. So my parents each had a child before they got together. And then they had me, and then they had my younger brother. And so I feel like if you are from a blended family, you come from a blended family, I think many can agree that there is so much that can happen because there's like external things, external factors.
The dynamics. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I got to live through that and other stressors. And so when we came to the US, that was a huge shift for me. And I got lost in middle school. Middle school, like, as you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they're like the years where you're trying to figure out like who you are. You copy people. I was totally a chameleon. I was copying other people. I was wearing the same shoes as other people. And on top of that, I didn't know the language. Like, I just knew the colors, the numbers, and the ABCs, right?
Yeah.
And so my middle school years were really transformative, and they were messy too. Like, I started hanging out with like la mala influencia. I started doing things that maybe I shouldn't have done, but you know, it happens.
Yeah.
When you come and you're trying to like figure out who you are, you try different things. You go through like that exploration phase. And then my dad was like, oh no, si no pongo a esta en terapia, like it's gonna turn into like something that we don't want to see. And my dad was the one that acknowledged we need family therapy, and we also need Jackie to be in therapy. Oh, wow. Yeah. And that was like when I was a 7th grader going into 8th grade, because I was spiraling like.
Your dad is Mexican, right?
Mexicano.
Mexicano, de Tijuana.
De Tijuana.
You know, it's amazing because I know what you're going down. Because we talk about this. We talk about generational trauma. We talk about how our parents either didn't know or didn't want to because of...
Even my mom now, when I told her, like, I go to therapy, like, she's like,
what the heck?
Well, why?
So for your dad to say that's it's crazy to hear that, because not a lot of Mexican dads... I know my dad would never say that shit. He would have laughed at me if I would have said therapy, or for him to say that, no way.
Did he ever mention what was it that made him look into therapy for you guys as a family and for you? Besides you,
he has not been like this is the why, and I guess maybe that's a really good question to ask him now that we're in a very stable place. He was blessed with 3 girls. My sisters are 7 and 8 years older than me, and I have a younger brother who is 8 years younger than me. So he really got to see how, as women, we were impacted. So at some point, you're like surrendering. I think there was I'm assuming that there was a concept of like surrendering, like, I can't do this. I came to the US and I need to do something about it so I can keep my family safe. I think there was that aha moment. Like, I think it's time to tackle how can we change for the better, right? So he was the one that initiated, and I'm so proud of that.
That's crazy.
He's still breaking cycles.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He started breaking the cycles.
Yeah. Yes, he started it.
That's crazy, especially like you said, from a father figure. You know, we've talked about it. We've had rough relationships with our fathers. You know, and even now, like I tell him sometimes, my father passed away, but sometimes I feel that there's still something lingering there. You know, that I still need to talk about. Yeah. And it's just a trip to hear that, like that.
Even now that I'm a father too, it's kind of like, it's like fuck, like I see, like now I see some of the points that my dad would make, even though I didn't agree with them. but then I'm like, okay, so but this is how we're gonna attack this way, you know, or like the relationship with my kids. I'm just like, I'm all about their feelings, you know what I'm saying? Because I got 2 teenage kids, I got 2 teenage daughters. I was blessed with girls too, so I have one son. I got my boy who's my little road dog, my little sidekick. He's turning 8 in a couple weeks, so happy birthday to him. But my daughters, it's tough, especially right now. They're both in high school, and they're both very different.
Yes.
And the little attitudes are coming out. The little boyfriends wannabes. I'm like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's just crazy to hear that. And like I said, I wish my dad would have tried to break a cycle, because I think it would have definitely helped us all. Like,
but you know what? We can't have that, like, that feeling of we wish, because it's all they knew too. We can't blame them for not knowing.
Yes.
Like your father, you know, something clicked in him where he found out about something, but not everybody has that opportunity or that moment.
well, you always have the opportunity.
Even us to this day, sometimes we still have that moment where it's like it clicks. Like,
pero,
oh shit.
Para decir, güey, que they didn't know any better. That's like the cop out. Para mí, it's like, you didn't know any better, or you didn't try. Which one was it?
Can I say something really
Go
quick?
for it. Go.
So this is what I highlight when there's this debate, right? Both are true. So yes, there is some truth around they did everything that they could with the resources that they had. And, right, that sometimes lacked parenting, lacked emotional availability, lacked X, Y, and Z, right? So both truths are very valid. And also, like, talking about the grief that goes behind, like, you know, I wish I've had, like, the childhood that my friends had, or the parents that, like, were emotionally available. However, your dad, even though he may not, like, had gone to therapy, you're breaking the cycle for him. So that's the beauty about, like, when you heal, you're not doing it for yourself and for future generations. You're also doing it for previous generations.
Okay.
You're also teaching. We're teaching our parents. If you believe it or not, like, we teach our parents by our actions too. So, like, when your dad sees you react different than he would, it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, maybe that's what I should have. You know. So,
okay, but at that point, it's kind of like, I taught you something that you can't use anymore, or I mean that you didn't use. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like because I used to always, like, to me, you were talking about, like, why can't I be like my friend's family or whatever, right? The family that I wanted to be like, and I know it's gonna sound corny.
Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. I used to always look at that show, and I was like, "Fuck! Why can't my dad be like Corey's dad?"
Yeah, he was
like,
pretty dope.
Yeah, I'm like, "Fuck!" Like, that fool got in trouble, and they're over there teaching him, son. Like, they're teaching him a lesson, and not in a fucked up way. I fuck up, and I'm getting fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
con la chancla, con el cable,
con lo que saliera, yeah. Con el gancho.
And if you cry, you're gonna cry. I'm gonna make you cry.
Yeah. I remember my dad kicked me once, right? I was on the ground, and that fool kicked me. And when he kicked me, estaba yo escondido entre el sillón, and he kicked himself on the couch. So el pendejo se pum, se pegó en el pierna y dice, "Me pegaste. And I'm like, you kicked the couch, dude. You're trying to kick me. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, it's funny.
I feel like that's very common in our cultura, to blame, to look for who to point the finger. Like, eres tú.
I did this because of you.
Yes. And that's a huge cycle that, like, I'm trying my best to break, and, like, looking at the reflection in the mirror.
Yeah.
You know, like, for so long, I feel like I resonate with your story because I was so upset at my parents. I was so angry at them. And I couldn't lean into but they did everything that they could, right? But they did everything that they could, and they had the resources that they had. I was so upset for years. And I realized that anger came out in romantic relationships. And so that's where it gets interesting.
Isn't that like a mimic? Don't we mimic our experiences with our parents? Or, like, there's this thing, right? There's this saying that, like, for example, daughters look for men that are like their fathers, and sons look for women that are like.
She's laughing. Tell us more about that.
So-
I want to know.
So you're not immune to all this either.
You know, it's been so interesting to be a therapist and be a client, because I still see my therapist on a monthly basis, and I'm fully like doing the work. And doing the work doesn't mean like you're this perfect being. Like, you're still making mistakes and still learning as you go. And, you know, and every day you're learning something new. But yeah, there is some truth about like, if you don't know that you have trauma, get in a relationship. And that relationship is going to mirror the things that need healing for you. And that has been one of my struggles throughout my 20s. Not only did I feel like I went into survival mode for a long time, I'm now learning how to step outside of survival, and it's less chaos now. But like my 20s, I mean, you go to, I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, I got like, it was back to back. But then I realized that like, while this was a passion that I wanted to do, I also recognized like, Jackie, you're staying busy. Why the F are you staying busy all the time? Like, I could
You're
not.
avoiding something.
Yes.
Running away.
Oh. I'm a runner. I'm a track star.
You know, that's crazy because I feel like that sometimes too, especially now. There's a lot of shit that I just keep adding to my plate.
You know, the thing that's common with us, even as adults, it's the survival mode or the being defensive. Like, we feel attacked for any little thing, and we feel we have to defend ourselves, even though, you know what I mean? It's something minor. It's
But it's also
common
experiences, fool.
yeah, that's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying. That's what I'm saying. It's part of like the whole trauma thing, that we still have those experiences that we feel we have to be in that mode.
I just think that we're living in a world now where everybody attacks people. I mean, look at our last post. It was a post about being who you want to be and speaking the way you want to speak, without talking shit about any country or any way or any person. I said I love Mexico. I love being Mexican, my Mexican heritage, and I also love being American and blah blah blah. And people take that shit out of context, fool. You know what I'm saying? They start attacking you. I think it's more, we're living in an attack society.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we
So-
get defensive, and it's also projecting. A lot of people like to project their feelings or things they haven't been able to express either. So
Yes. And we live in a world of social media,
Yeah.
right? Like, things changed. Like, the fact that we're doing this and having this space to talk about these things, 10 years ago, this was not a thing. Maybe when did MySpace came out and Facebook? I mean, it was different, right? Like,
It was 2003,
like
2004.
yeah.
Yeah, 2004.
wait, it's been 2 decades?
Because I remember being in Japan.
Oh, yeah, MySpace in Japan.
Yeah, I had a MySpace in Japan. And I was like, I was like 19, 20
You
at
had
the
the
time.
music in the background of your pages.
I used to have the little recording. Hey, what's up? Hey, hit me up. Nah, I'm
So
just kidding.
yeah, like now, like I feel like that happens a lot on social media. You post something. I remember like getting backlash because I used the word Latinx, right? And many people don't like that word because of the meaning behind it. And it's like, no, it's Latinos or Latinas, right? But it's up to you how you want to, what type of words you want to use in your language. It's up to you. So yeah, people are gonna talk, and it's a projection of how they feel.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, I want to go back to something she said. So you mentioned how being in a relationship kind of makes you or lets you see the type of healing that you need. How, I guess, in your field, your dating life, right? And I don't want to get all personal. I'm just saying, do you get that when you meet a guy or you're interested in a guy, when they find out you're a therapist? Is that affect already from the get-go? Like,
Forget that when you meet someone, are you already analyzing?
yeah. How does that work? When you meet a guy, you're like, okay.
Honestly,
She's about to diagnose us right now, break us down.
matter of fact, no. I try. I mean, obviously, it does come up when you ask that question, like, "What do you do for a living?" And I mean, it all depends. Like, dating has been interesting, to say the least. I think also dating has changed over time. I can be very traditional, but at the same time, like adapt new traditions, right? And I mean, it's all on the eye of the beholder, right? Like, what some people think that therapists are XYZ, you know, like they have a perception of, you know, oh, don't date therapists, pero how about you just get to know me as a human rather than put a label on me? Yeah, and let the experiences say something about who I am. But
so you're talking about people judging you, right? What about you judging other people? Do you shut it off, or do you like go into things open-minded? Do you meet people with an open mind, or are you kind of...
Honestly, as soon as I like take off my work hat, it's long gone. And I'm very good at like, I'm not going to give you advice. Like, I'm not like, I also can't give advice. If you guys say like, oh, Jackie, like, let me give you the presenting problem and this is what's happening in my life, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to validate you. And I'm going to be like, oh, it must be really hard to go through that. But I'm not going to dive into like, oh, you can use this skill and that skill. No, it's exhausting to always being in that, wearing that hat.
Yeah.
No, like I love taking it off. I'm like, I'm not working.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you do that though? Because I'm assuming you probably hear a lot of different problems, right?
Just with your friends alone, you know, with their experiences, their breakups, their situations with their parents, their kids.
He's saying it because of me. Because
I'm his therapist.
I got on his nerves.
So I get you. I take off my cat and I left it off with him now. Like, it stays off.
Yeah, I don't tell him shit no more like that. But I get it. I was talking about shit so much that, like, I got it. You know, but anyways, back to you, like, because you don't fucking make about him and shit.
It's a safe space for you.
No, because you know what's up. Here. Okay, so we've talked about this, and I'm not gonna bring it up, but I'm going through a divorce. So for the last 3.5 years, you know, he's been my therapist. A couple of my other friends have been my therapist. My brother's been my therapist. Obviously, not a real therapist because they're not licensed.
I think at this point,
they're my ears. You know what I'm saying? So how do you not let it affect you? That's what I was gonna ask. Like, how do you hear all these issues, all these problems, give people advice, but then how do you not let it affect you as a person in all aspects of your life? Like, I know you say you turn it off, but how? Like,
from so many years of doing this job, I think you become used to it and you adapt to it, right? You find the need that I'm a human too, and I don't have to be diagnosing people that are not the people that I'm serving, right? So it took me a while, right? Because I think especially now that like I'm in such a flexible space of I own my private practice, I see about like 16 to 18 clients per week. When I was working at an agency, I was seeing 40 clients a week. Damn. Okay, so that's double. Now, back then, it was probably really hard to take off that hat. But now that I have a different flexibility in my life, I'm like, no, I want to be a human. I want to be messy sometimes, you know? Like, I'm not perfect. I don't know it all. Like, and also in the therapeutic space with me, I've attracted, which is so interesting to say, I've attracted many Latinas that we share similar adversities, struggles. And I'm like, girl, I've been there. You're going through that? Like, wow. Like, and it's interesting that we were talking about this before we started. We're all going through something. You're going through a divorce. I'm going through my own shit. And, you know, so keeping that in mind, that we're all trying to figure out life. And just because you do this way, you get into this, like I'm not married yet. I don't have kids. I'm not dating, right? And I'm a 30-year-old. To my mom and my parents, they're like, she's the black sheep of the family. Like, no, ya se le pasó el tren. No se va a casar. No.
That's how it be. Like always, no kids. You're not gonna have kids. When are you gonna have kids?
Yeah.
So But just because my life looks like this, it doesn't mean that I'm doing the life the wrong way, right? Like we all like go through things, and giving ourselves grace for that.
Yeah.
Is there a struggle right now? You're talking about, you're feeling things, you're going through this, for you to like, I know you don't self-diagnose, but you kind of reflect, being a person, being a therapist, this is wrong, this is right. Do you have that internal struggle with yourself sometimes?
Yes, I do. And I've worked through it with my therapist. I was so shameful about crying in the past. And I remember having a therapy session, and I was like in tears, and I'm like, I need to be strong. I need to be strong. And she goes, well, why do you need to be strong? And she's like, and I'm like, well, it's so much pressure. Like my family's already going through so much. And I was, this perspective of like, I have to be strong all the time was so draining for me that it didn't allow me to be vulnerable. Right. And it's the power of like, when you tap into vulnerability and perseverance, right? In that therapy session, like we went from, what's another word that we can replace from strong? Let's do a reframe. And we came up with perseverance. And ever since, this was like back in 2017, that word has stuck with me. Perseverance, because it highlights truly the struggles that we go through as humans and how we overcome some of those struggles too. Right? So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. Yeah. You did, most definitely. I think for me, things have changed a lot now. Being strong, the definition of strong has changed a lot. Like, I feel it's more kind of like what you said, being vulnerable, being able to communicate and express yourselves and actually, talk about our feelings. I think most in general, we got to share what we're feeling, and right or wrong, it could be something minimal. Like before, I was always scared to like just give my opinion, And now here I am on a podcast sharing my freaking opinion every week, So yeah. I think so. Definitely the definition for me has changed a lot.
I think it's just scary. Because I don't think I've ever been the vulnerable guy, the type of guy, or at least I'm more vulnerable now than I was growing up, and even up until recently, maybe in the last year or so. I just think it's fearful.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like I look at it and like there's times when I want to be vulnerable, but then I'm like, wait a minute, who am I being invulnerable to? I think it has to do with the other person listening, because if I've been vulnerable with people that it has backfired on me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like it makes you. It's trust. That's what it is to me.
But here's the thing. Like I said, strong is. And I've said this I don't know how many times now, but you have to get to that moment where you're like strong, comfortable with yourself, because that's powerful when you're not scared of judgment anymore. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, because we have actual professional. But you have to have that moment where you're like, I'm not scared of your judgment. You can feel however you feel. Your perspective is going to be one way. This person's going to feel this way. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. And you've seen that now with the social media posts that recently had. Yeah. So people are always going to judge no matter what. But it's what you think about yourself. And once you get to that moment, it's
I guess. But there's still certain people that you don't want to be judged by.
Well, of course.
And those are the ones that are like, fuck.
I hear you. It's definitely, like, healing can be interesting because it's so messy and we fuck up and we go back into those cycles sometimes. Yeah. And I hear you in the way of, I don't want to let those people down. ¿Qué van a decir? Right? ¿Qué va a decir la gente? But, sometimes we even stay in spaces because of the fear of ¿qué va a decir la gente? And we're not even happy.
That's true.
Which we see a lot. How many times do we not see families, our parents, like in miserable relationships and bad relationships? And it's like, why did they stick around? Because it's just a generational thing that they've been, and fear of judgment. Yes.
So building safety takes a while. Even as a therapist, I struggled with the judgment, right? Because like I said, the 20s I had like both sides, they were super messy, and I was trying to figure out my life, and I was working towards becoming a therapist. So those two sometimes didn't go hand in hand, because I was like, wait, like I'm doing this and I'm doing this? Like, how do those two mix, right? Yeah. But it did mix, and I'm so grateful for all of those my 20s, because it taught me so many experiences. It taught me that, like, don't be scared of judgment, right? Like, I was so scared of letting my parents down. I was so scared of letting that I was dating at the time down. People pleasing tendencies were going 1,000 miles per hour. And it wasn't until I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm surrendering. Like, I can't keep everyone happy. I can't please everyone. And there's going to be someone that is going to share their opinion about what you're going through. And that doesn't mean that that's right or wrong. It just means that that's their perspective.
Have you ever felt like quitting?
Yes. In what way, though? Like, what quitting?
Like, this is too much. And I'm not talking about life. I'm talking about in your field.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever felt like, oh, shit, this is too much? Like, fuck, like I...
Yeah, because you're dealing with a lot of emotions from different people. And, I mean, I'm sure it rubs off or kind of hits you even after. Or I'm not sure. I'm assuming. I don't know.
I'm living my dream.
Okay.
With doing the creative side and doing and working with people that I want to work with. Like, I'm collectively healing with the people that I serve. As wild as that sounds, we're healing collectively. And yeah, in quitting in relation to life, I have been suicidal in my early teens and throughout life. And, you know, trigger warning. And that's why I got a medication, because it hit hard. Ooh, you see? This is where, like, the little tears come.
It's okay. Be vulnerable here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I'm so grateful that I went back to therapy. And I went back to therapy November of 2021 when I transitioned into private practice. So I had both. I had the transition of being in a relationship at the time and going into solo. So also, like, backstory, transitions are scary as hell for me, because I came to the US. That was a huge transition. And then there was a lot of transitions happening in my family. So I feel like I've always kind of had, like, this fear of transitional periods equals chaos. And I had to reframe that and understand that, like, transitions are part of life, and they're not supposed to be easy. And it's okay if you're struggling. But no, in relation, what keeps me going is Zoe, my dog. I love him. And my family. And I went back to Riverside, California, where the place that I was running from this year.
You know, it's we're talking about all this in transitions. It's super scary. Transitions are always scary. Starting new chapters, like they say, you know, it's always scary. One of our coping mechanisms, I think, like that we do is we look for comfort, whatever it is. You know, when you talk about it a lot. When you're going through something or feeling a certain way, your comfort was watching Boy Meets World, escaping your reality. You know, we use our imaginations and we just look for that comfortable place or that safe space for us.
Yeah, we escape.
No, this is it, because
we do our best.
I'm about to go through a big transition, I'm sure, pretty soon. And I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of anxious. And a couple of friends already told me, you are going to manage. You're going to manage. So it's like, fuck. It's like, it's scary, you know? And I don't know what's going to happen. I think the reason why it's a little scary is because it's unknown. It's like I am a control freak. I think I've lessened that a little bit over the years, but I'm still kind of a control freak. I like to know shit. Like, no me digas a mí, vamos a hacer esto, y no me des detalles. I hate that shit. Like, don't tell me shit. You know what I'm saying? Y ahorita, pues, como está pasando muchas cosas, no sé no tengo yo idea de lo que va a pasar. Y como no voy a poder controlarlo, it's kind of scary. It's like trippy. So,
It's it can be scary, but sometimes it could be beautiful too, Doug. The things
Well,
that come out of it, the
that's
person
what I'm
you
saying.
become.
I'm looking, I am, that's one thing I'm telling myself, that I'm looking forward to the positive side of it. Because there's going to be negative aspects to it, right? But there's also, it's going to be like a new page, a new life, a new way. Like I just came back from Cabo, okay? And I used to always say, I'm scared of open water. I'm scared of deep sea water, okay? Mm-hmm. I fucking would have never, ever jumped into the middle of the ocean, okay? I'll go to the beach y me meto como 4 or 5 feet. But as soon as I'm like, ay, güey, ya no sé nada, I'm running back. Mm-hmm. And I went to Cabo, and I jumped in the middle of the Sea of Cortez, snorkeling.
Beautiful warm water.
Yeah, I know, but it happened so quick, I didn't even have the chance to fucking think about it, because we were on a line, and they were jumping. And part of me was like, if you don't jump, fool, you're a pussy, fool. You know, if you don't jump, you're a pussy. So I kept telling myself this, like, hey, wait, when you get to that edge, fool, they isn't jump.
You're going to be holding up the line.
Yeah. You don't want to be that fool.
Were you wearing a floaty?
I was wearing a floaty. No, I was wearing like
the little vest.
Yeah, I was wearing a vest. I fucking jumped in, and...
Can I get 2? You're like...
No, it was like so relieving.
Yeah.
I was like, I did this. Like, I'm like, oh, shit. Like, it feels so good. So, I don't know. It's just the fear in the unknown, you know?
I know we sometimes like struggle with control, and I resonate with that. Lean into that fear though. Like, I think we're just so scared to feeling scared. So if we lean into it and we're able to be in that space of like, yeah, I'm going through something very scary and I can't do anything to change what I'm going through. And focus on what's within your control, which is going and trying something new, or trying a new sport, or going into starting a podcast, like finding the beauty when we are in chaos, right? It's like we cannot be in chaos in this moment right now because it feels chaotic. So let's sit with it and see where it goes, right? Yeah. Instead of like running away from it.
That's why I carry this. Remember I told you?
Yeah, you told us that.
I carry this. It says, the path to paradise is through hell. So it's like a reminder to myself. Every time I'm like, okay, remember this.
I heard something similar, and I forgot. I don't know where it was. I think it was a show on Netflix, but I forgot. Where there was a guy talking about a cycle, right? And it's pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure. It's just a continuous cycle.
That's a song for it's called The Agony Before the Ecstasy.
That's Smokey Robinson. Yeah, Agony and Ecstasy.
It's a good song.
I want to backtrack a little bit because you're very, like it shows that you're very passionate about this and talking about this. You said as a teen you struggled and you started therapy. Is that where you initially thought, okay, this is what I want to do, or did it take some time, or what was it where was that moment that it was like, I want to be a therapist?
I went into therapy when I was anywhere between like 13 or 14 years old. And I remember having a conversation with my therapist at the time of relationships. I was struggling. I have been struggling in relationships and still trying to figure out like that right now. And I was like, when we were done with our therapy, I was like, so, like, did you go to school for this? I was 14. I'm like, did you go to school for this? Like, I really enjoyed our sessions, and I would really, and I looked around, and she had like her degrees, and I'm like, can you tell me a little bit like how you got into this? That was our last session. And she was like, yeah, like I went to school for this, and if you want to help people too at some point, like you can go into this too. And ever since that conversation, I was like, maybe, like, this is really cool. Like, the way that she impacted my life at 14 years old, like, so it was such a different connection than, like, the connections that I had with my friends, the connections that I had with my mom. Like, when you go into therapy, it's a very unique experience. And it's a very different perspective than what a friend or a family member can give you. Oh my gosh. Like, I still go to therapy today, and I'm like, I'm very open. I'm like, girl, this is what I have. Boom. And I just lay it out. And like the way that we put things together, and we're going back into ancestral healing right now. That's what I'm doing in my space. And a lot of conversations that I probably wouldn't have without the help of someone who is guiding me through the process and understanding. So
is it like paying it forward, or is it just you felt like, damn, like this helped me a lot, I wanted to help people just like me or in my situation?
yeah, I think my experiences led me to become a therapist. Like this, like I didn't choose this field chose me, type of thing. It just kind of, I went with it. I me dejé fluir, and I've met amazing people through the journey. Some of my closest friends now are also therapists, and it's a lovely community to be a part of. Like my social media has been all mental health related, and it's so neat. Like that page, when I go and scroll, I'm like, this is all educational stuff, you know? Yeah. So you do have the power of like, who do you want to follow, right? Like what type of things you want to learn. It doesn't have to, like your social media feed and when you're scrolling, it could be very beneficial things for you.
Okay.
How do you feel about mushrooms?
Mushrooms?
Yeah, that's where I was not going to ask that, but
I haven't tried.
No, maybe not trying, but
in the
he laughs because
holistically.
Yeah, well, no, because there's a lot of science that backs up that they are very helpful with depression. That they're very helpful with.
They talked about ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca is a known treatment too to treat grief, trauma, PTSD. I'm not on that side.
So you have not had experience. Would you? Well, I guess because I asked my therapist. I asked a couple of therapists, and some of them have said it just depends on the person. But I wanted to see your take because I've been considering doing a mushroom trip. I've never done mushrooms. I don't do drugs.
Right.
But I heard. I mean, everybody tells me it's an ego breaker, and sometimes I don't know. You know.
I wouldn't know how to answer that because I haven't experienced it. And I also have like seen the research in how beneficial it has been for some folks. I feel like, quick disclaimer, being like if you're experiencing psychotic symptoms like hallucinations and delusions, then I would probably like explore more and dive deeper before going into a treatment like that. Yeah, gotcha. But when you're doing it like with people who are certified, I know that some of these spaces are healers in holistic healers. So there's other methods. I think being really open-minded about all of this, right? Like if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't work for you, then finding other different solutions to the path of healing, right? But there's not like a one way, like this is how you need to do it. You have to take medication. No, like it's really finding out like what your formula is. And I love, recently I came up with this idea of like formula when it comes to what may work for me may not work for you. And what works for me may not work for you. Yeah. So I have developed my own formula of, well, this is what helps and this is what helps. And adding the little things that help me because that's what I know. That I'm improving, I'm walking towards something different, right? But what may work for me may not work for you. Yeah, and so forth.
You know, sometimes you say that I laugh about it. I don't really laugh. It's just my perspective is different. Like, you know,
I get it. But now that we had a therapist, because
there's a lot of therapists even DMT, right? Like microdosing and doing things like that.
Yes.
But I thought that was for like imbalances in the brain or for things like that. I haven't really looked into it. But
mental health issues.
Yeah. Well, not all of them.
Not all of them, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
So chemical imbalances, going back to like what we talked about earlier, right? Like, yes, depression and anxiety can be environmental, right? And when we experience ongoing trauma and we feel like our fight or flight is activated most of the time, or even our freeze response, right? Mm-hmm. Our brain tends to have chemical imbalances that no matter what you do, like no matter what self-care routine you do, no matter like if you wake up in the morning and you go to work and do all these things, we may still struggle with a chemical imbalance, right? And so that's why there's medicine and there's these alternative things to help you stabilize your chemical imbalance in your brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something happened to me when I was in Cabo on the way back. So I've never been scared of flights, okay? And this is the anxiety part of me. I've never been scared of flights because I've flown since I was a kid. And I think the most I've flown was when I went to Japan. And I did that trip back and forth 6 times. So, yeah, I was stationed over there. I lived over there for 2 years.
Wait, how long were you serving?
I did almost 8 years. Maybe a couple months.
Service.
Oh, thank you. So I've flown, but I like in the last 5 years, 7 years, my anxiety has gone through the roof, and so my doctor gave me anxiety pills, right? And I was going to Cabo. It was probably like an hour and 15-minute trip.
That's nice.
I took a pill before, like an hour before, because I was getting anxious. Because I get anxious being apretado, que me siento apretado. Claustrophobic. And it was cool. But I forgot on the way back, I lost my pills. I lost my other pill. I was like, fuck. And we got in y empecé a paniquear. Estaba caliente. Like yo estaba sudando. Like no me podía sentar. Me sentía, like I literally feel like the people were coming down the line and I'm just like, fuck. Like I'm about to push these people out of the fucking way. I'm about to like, jump out the plane. I'm like, gosh, when you do that, fool, they're going to fucking arrest you because they're going to think you're on something or whatever. And like even like Cindy was like looking at me like, the fuck's wrong with this fool? I'm like, dude, don't fucking laugh at me. Don't think differently of me right now. I just let me be. And she's like, all right. She didn't say shit. I got up and I told the flight attendant, I said, hey, do you mind if I stand right here next to you? She's like, are you okay? I was like, nah, I'm having an anxiety attack and like I don't have my pills, so can I just chill? Can I just see the door? And that calmed me down. And then she's like, all right, you can stay there. Just don't get off the plane. I was like, all right, cool. So I was by the door just breathing and shit, breathing in. And but no,
wait, did you stay by the
door, yeah.
Like standing up the whole trip?
No.
Just while people were
boarding.
Ah, okay.
Sí. Cuando ya se subió toda la gente, ya me volví a sentar. And I had to like close my eyes and fucking, I started singing and shit and just counting in my head. And I was like, all right, cool. Ya cuando se fue el avión.
But that is a situation when you're on the plane because the air is not even on. You have people just.
But is that a chemical imbalance at that point? Or is that,
I mean,
what causes anxiety attacks?
That sounds like there's something there.
Told you. I'm just kidding.
Panic and anxiety are, like, we can experience these things. Some people have, I mean, again, like if we look at agoraphobia, right? Mm-hmm. Agoraphobia is a disorder that the fear of being in tight places or going outside in the public, right? And some people do really experience this intense fear where it gets in the way of their functioning. It is pretty known, like I think sometimes traveling and being in flights can be a little bit anxiety provoking, right? And so we need anxiety actually to survive. That's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Anxiety in our nervous system is the activators of like, if I go out of this building and if I cross the street, anxiety is going to tell me what a car's coming, don't cross, right?
Gotcha.
If I don't have that, then I'm probably gonna cross the street and get hit. So understanding like that there's different levels of anxiety and panic. Now, if this continues getting worse, because it sounds like there was somatic symptoms, like physical symptoms.
Well, there's a couple things that happened to me that I always think of that make me feel that anxious. And I know two of them happened in the military, and then one of them happened at Magic Mountain. So in the military, the first incident that ever happened was when I was in boot camp. We were in boot camp. They mess with you, like they fuck with you. They're supposed to break you down and then build you back up. And our drill instructor used to have this thing. They used to, for fun, they used to put all of us into this little wall locker. Hace cuenta, así el espacio está así de grande, el cuartito. And they would open the doors, and they would pack 100 motherfuckers in there. They would say, you guys got 10 seconds to all fit in there, or we're going to go and do whatever. Y todos se dejaban ir, ¿verdad? Y todos se amontonaban ahí. ¿Cómo te metías? Y en una de esas me tocó hasta mero atrás. Y todos se pusieron, y no te puedes mover.
You can't breathe.
You can't, ya, yo sentí que se me estaba... I don't know if you see Game of Thrones.
No. Sorry.
You haven't seen Game of Thrones? You see Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
You remember the Battle of the Bastards?
Yes.
Where fucking Jon Snow is standing by himself, and then he literally all the fucking
arrows.
The troops, they're fighting, and he's in the middle of it, and he's just trying to escape.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That scene gave me anxiety because it reminded me of me being stuck in the locker room. It reminded me of when we were doing grappling. We were doing martial arts. We were doing this thing called Bull in the Ring, where it's 5 against 5. So we're supposed to tap each other out or take you out of the ring. If you take one out of the ring, now it's 5 against 4. So it ended up being like 4 against 2. And then it was 4 against 1. And all these guys had me, one fool had me in a fucking chokehold. The other fool was trying to do an armbar, and I couldn't move. I couldn't even tap. That's how fucked up it was. Like, I couldn't even tap, and I was tapping, and I was telling these fools, like, hey, like, I couldn't even breathe or talk. So that's another moment. And those shits have stuck with me. Every time I get anxiety from claustrophobia, I think of those two. And then the third one was in Magic Mountain. We got stuck in the ride. And el asiento. Woo!
I mean,
Woo! I was tripping.
Good thing it wasn't a loop.
like Final Destination moment.
Oh, yeah, for real.
I know.
Pero por eso, yo creo que por eso me da mucha ansiedad ya. Like, si no tengo control, si... Even cuando mis hijas jugaban conmigo, se subían y... Dad, they'll be like, hey, get off me. Because me sentía, again, like not having control. So...
Yeah. The brain and the body are just so interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because, again, like we can experience memory loss when we experience trauma, right? But we also, like, even when we experience amnesia, our body can still remember certain things, certain touches. And maybe we don't know why we're having flashbacks or why we're like sweating when we're in the airplane, but our body's telling us something, right? And it goes back to our nervous system. Like, what is your body trying to tell you right now? Why do I not feel safe, even though flying is probably safer than being in the car? Yeah. Right? I think there's some research behind that, that it's more than likely to get in a car accident than get in a plane accident, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like I'm getting a therapy session. Sorry.
You brought something up right now because I've told these guys, like, man, I feel like my memory sucks. And I don't remember a lot of things, but now it's starting to make sense. You know, like, I don't remember a lot of my childhood when I think about it. Like, so it's like, now that you brought that up, I always thought, like, you know, I'm like, maybe I'm getting something, or I'm going to be, you know, have dementia, or, you know, it's just something like that. But it's like, why am I remembering?
Okay, let me ask you this. Like, what's the earliest memory that you can think of from your childhood? Like, what age is that?
Pretty young. I mean, see, the thing is that I have some memories, and then some memories I don't remember anything at all. So okay. There's things I remember, there's things I don't. And it makes sense now. Like, I remember good things. Like,
I'm probably going to say, for me, it's like,
I remember my Head Start too, my pre-K when I lived in Southgate. I remember things like that.
I just don't remember 2-year-old, 3-year-old.
And that's normal. Yeah. That's pretty normal, because like we begin to have more conscious memory when we're about to hit 4, 5, 6, right? I think even like when I was a 5-year-old, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a human. Like, what? Like, I have a body.
I'm alive.
I'm like 5 years old. I'm like, wait, am I a person? And that would trip me out. I was 5 years old, right? But I think that's one of my earliest memories. Like, oh shit, like, I'm here.
Wondering who you were?
Yeah.
What am I doing? You're already like deep thoughts and the universe and who am I?
Exacto. Yeah.
Crazy.
I wanted to talk about something too. I think I wanted to ask you, this is one of the questions I really wanted to ask. I feel like now maybe it's social media, and you're very popular on social media, and you do a lot of social media work. Have you felt like more people are open, or there's been more cases of people having mental health issues, or coming forward with it, or dealing with it? Or sometimes do you feel like maybe it's not even mental health, maybe it's just something else? Because there's a lot of people that be like, oh no, like some people like self-diagnose, I'm depressed, or
you know what? Better question is, how do you feel about all the people that come out on social media giving advice, and some of them are not even licensed? Like you said,
those are two different questions.
No, because I'm going through some shit, right?
No,
and then
yeah,
all of a sudden I'm self-diagnosing, like you said, and then I'm gonna make a page, a support group, and now I'm giving advice.
No, but even that, just people that come out that say they have something, and
Por eso te
maybe
estoy
it's not.
diciendo, and then I create 100,000 people follow me. Yo me siento igual, and is how you know it's real. That's what you're saying. How do you know when a person is genuinely have a mental health issue, or it's social media following, or
Validation. I think validation is huge, and I think a lot of people look for validation in whatever form that may be. It could be faking something. It could be looking for clout, chasing clout. So there's a lot of things that's why I asked that.
Yeah. So being really mindful in the content that you absorb and who you're getting the content from. What type of credentials do they have? What type of degrees do they have? Is this a credible source? Right? Like that has a lot to do with it, like doing the research behind who you follow. Because yeah, there is a lot of therapy lingo going on, right, since the pandemic. And, there's psychologists, there's counselors, there's therapists, there's coaches, there's mental health advocates, there's, all these labels that are going around that I think my best advice is do your research before you absorb content, right? Like who is this information coming from, and are they a reliable source to follow? And even like I feel like being on the mental health side of TikTok and Instagram, we still sometimes say things that are not like correct because we're human at the end of the day. So I have seen some therapists getting backlash for sharing information, or their white privilege showing and things like that. And it's about like taking accountability, right? And saying like, hey, at the end of the day, I'm human. I messed up. I said the wrong thing, and moving forward, right? But really just, I guess, to answer also your question, we all have a story, right? And we all have a story to tell. So it's up to us, like, is this a story that I'm living, or is this a story that I want to tell to someone else? Yeah. Right? And there's a lot of mental health advocates, and yeah, like talking about their own experiences, but that's the beauty about social media too, that people are sharing their perspectives and what they're going through and being vulnerable on social media, right? Before pandemic, it was less like the whole mental health field. It was a lot more quiet than what it is now. Mm-hmm. Pandemic hit 2020, and a bunch of therapists were given that platform and that space to share our knowledge and our insight, which is so beautiful, right? Because it's free resources. Mm-hmm. But I think it just really depends, who you follow and what you see and what stories come up for you.
Have you gotten any backlash? Not for misinformation, like, I don't want to say misinformation because that word's pretty wild right now, but like for maybe saying something incorrect, but just for doing what you're doing. Have people maybe said, oh, you're just doing this to promote your business, or you're just doing this for attention, or whatever it may be?
I haven't. I think my platform is really safe. It's a safe space. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, I try to keep things very professional there. And, sometimes I share like my own struggles, and I can see how those struggles also help others kind of normalize, like, hey, it's okay to not have your shit together and it's fine.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't. I haven't gotten any backlash or any negativity. If anything, it has brought nothing but positivity and in a safe space to talk about mental health freely. Yeah.
Nice.
I got a question.
Yeah.
The word narcissistic. Obviously, you're in the field, and we've had this. Me and him have had this debate.
I think it's funny because there's a comedian, right? Rene Vaca. He talks about this, how like on social media now, like the word narcissist, like they're using it like, oh, this person is narcissistic, and like pretty much social media is teaching people or like people in relationships,
People in relationships,
their
that's what I was
partners are
thinking.
narcissists. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think of that? Like, first of all, can you explain what narcissistic or narcissist is in your field based on the knowledge that you have and experience and your license?
Yeah.
And also, how do you feel? The second part of that question is, like you said, somebody ends up in a bad relationship, and all of a sudden, he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist. How do you feel about that? Because to me, it's like, I think it's bullshit. But what do you think? Give us your thoughts.
Okay. I'm going to give y'all like what is NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. For someone to meet criteria for that, there's specific criteria. And I'm going to mention few right now. There is the grandiose, right? The I am better than you and you're less than me. It's very apparent. There is the fear of abandonment. And remember, with personality disorders, they can all stem from childhood trauma, right? And our attachment style can also stem from childhood trauma, right? So grandiose for NPD, egocentric, very ego-driven, and a lack of awareness of others, right? Here's the thing with narcissists and all those personality disorders. We can all have traits. But just because we have traits, it doesn't mean that we qualify for the disorder, right? We can have, like for the longest time, I identified with fear of abandonment. I identified with excessive mood swings, a lot of criteria for personality disorders, right? And I try to I just understand my own symptoms and that some of these symptoms overlap too. It could be learned behavior. I mean, if we think about narcissist and machismo, right?
Exactly.
They coincide very well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes yes, we have, grateful that we have, the knowledge and the words and that there is research behind this, right? And just because someone has narcissistic traits, right, that doesn't mean that that person can't heal. We could all, we're not perfect human beings. Sometimes we are going to be a little bit self-centered. We are going to be a little bit because of fear of abandonment, I'm going to be super snappy to you. But it just really depends, okay, how can we learn from that? And how can we break the cycle from that? Right?
No, I agree with you. Everything you say, I totally agree. Because we've talked about it, and I've told him, do I have narcissistic tendencies? I think everybody has them. It's like we all could be a little bit. There's times when I'm like, fuck that, I want to do me. I'm thinking about me. At the end of the day, each one of us is going to think about our own, right? But I also have empathy. I care about your feelings. I care about my kids' feelings. If I didn't care about nobody else, I think you would see that. So it is crazy because social media.
That's where it goes deeper. I think there's after that. It's what is it? When you don't have empathy and you don't have feelings for other
Lack
people.
of empathy?
Yeah, that's starts going into a different disorder, right?
History.
But
So there's borderline personality disorder. There is narcissistic personality disorder. There is histrionic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and I think that's, I remember, maybe I'm missing one, but that's the clusters. We all have mental health. That's the thing, right? If you're human, you got physical health, guess what? You got mental health too. And it's about really just doing the work and really how am I showing up with others?
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. So how can I take my own receipts, right? And instead of like, esa persona es esto, or putting the blame on other people, can we take a second and just look at ourselves and really really just explore how did I contribute to that situation, right? Like how did I also contribute to that fight that we had?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
Cool.
Two-way streets, fool. Two-way streets.
No, I just.
no, but this is not to say like there is these disorders, NPD, like this is a real thing. BPD, like these are real things.
Yeah.
I just feel that with social media, I mean, these words are thrown left and right, but this is why I say, like, is this a credible source? Is it coming from a licensed clinician? Is it coming from a licensed therapist? Or is it coming from someone else who just is sharing personal experiences?
Yeah, and I think it's like you said. Sometimes people just want to hear what they want to hear. So if it makes sense to them, they'll be like, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna go with it." So that my boyfriend's a narcissist, right? Or my girlfriend's a narcissist, right? And why? Because her boyfriend. She said her boyfriend was a narcissist, and he did something similar to my boyfriend. So I think it's just that whole. I don't want to really dive into it. It's more like I'm just being validated right now, so fuck it. I'm gonna go with narcissists.
Well, yeah, that too. But she said something earlier about we're always just looking to point fingers.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And like she said, we have to reflect and be like, how did I contribute to this too? Because like I tell you all the time, everything's a two-way street. Nothing is just one way. There's two people, three people, whatever the circumstance is. It's always more than one person involved.
Yeah. And something that I'm learning is we all have narratives. I have a narrative about a certain situation, and then that same situation, you may have a different narrative about that situation, right? And typically in relationships, especially, some relationships very complex, right? Like there's a lot going on, and also knowing that if a relationship maybe doesn't proceed anymore, right? That we all leave that relationship with a narrative that may be different than the other person, right? Yeah. So this is when when breakups happen and separations, we have the option to really see it as like, what did I learn from this experience, right? And what were my mess ups so I don't take that to the next space, right? So I think it's just like all perspective and like what your mindset and where you're at in your life,
Yeah.
I think that's important. She brought something up because we don't do that, especially when we're younger, We don't do that. Like when we leave one relationship, we don't take what we learned from it. You know what I mean?
It has to be a meaningful relationship too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not going to be like a one week relationship.
No, but I'm saying like if you're with somebody for a couple months and then you move on, you're like, oh, you know what, this didn't work out.
But there's still things you can take away from that. Just like a conversation we're having right now, you can take something away from it, even if you just meet once and that's it. Like you've met people in your life where you have a single conversation and you could take something right out of that, and you carry it with you. You know what I mean? So everything, but we never do that. I think we definitely need to change that. We need to start taking bits and pieces out of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 20s were a lot like that, where it was very subconscious. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing, like conscious versus subconscious is two different things, right? Conscious is like, okay, I'm aware, I'm opened, and I'm vulnerable. Like I wanna be conscious about like the reasons why this space didn't work. And subconscious, we're kind of just going through life without the awareness of like, where is this stemming from? Is this a childhood wound that's hitting, right? And let's be honest, like if you're Latino, Latina, Latinx, AIOU, como quieran ustedes,
you're gonna have some shit.
Exactly. Yes.
You're not perfect. You got some fucking trauma somewhere. Yeah.
Is that your specialty, generational trauma, or do you have a certain? Okay.
I don't specialize in personality disorders. It's more depression and anxiety with the Latina community. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about going into like psychotherapy or anything like that, where you're dealing with more personality disorders or extreme personality disorders?
No, that's not.
That's
not my expertise.
Okay.
No, that's not.
Because some of those things, some of the stories that I've heard, you know, like people, it's just their experiences that they have. It's pretty crazy. Just
I don't think I could do that. I don't think
that's hard.
I want to say thank you for for doing something that you love and doing something for Latinas, because a lot of in our culture, I think women are very, como tú dices, crecen en un machismo, y a veces se nos olvida que las mujeres son importantes en nuestra cultura. So I want to say thank you for that. And
before we do that, there was a question. People were asking that, and I got to get this question because that's Andy's.
go for it.
All right. So someone asked, actually, no, this was I think there was a Mexican restaurant over in Riverside that asked this question. They want to know what motivates Jackie.
A Mexican restaurant in
Yeah.
Riverside?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
They asked the question.
They asked the question.
I'm like, can I go eat?
You guys got out with chiles?
Yeah, but chiles or what? Wait, what was the question?
What motivates Jackie?
To honestly, to pave the way for myself, my family, and future generations that I know cuando sea el tiempo va a venir. I really aspire to be a mother, and it has not happened for me yet. And really looking forward to that chapter of like, I am looking forward to developing those conversations that I wish I had with my parents, you know, and just kind of like that, trying my best to be in that mindful parenting and conscious living. And, like that, cada día hay algo que el día te va a ofrecer. Whether, sometimes like I still wake up sometimes and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And then other days I'm like super empoderada, bien motivada, and just learning the ebb and flow of life and this journey, that things are not supposed to be perfect, and connecting with other people, like connecting with new people and hearing their story too. Like, I think it's really wonderful that I've been fortunate to be in this space of community. And like, I never thought that I would be, I always wanted to have a private practice, but never this way. Like, this is awesome. That the fact that I get to give back to my community and also share space with my community. So y'all keep me going. The people that I serve keep me going. Zoe keeps me going. And, there's a lot of beauty through the suffering and the pain too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Very well said.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're happy, huh?
Well, she hasn't stopped smiling since you got here.
I know.
That's one thing that I think that that's the first thing I noticed is you're always smiling.
Really?
Yeah. So that's cool.
She is Latina. Not just joking.
A little toxica in me. I'm just kidding. Maybe.
Ready to move on to No Manches?
Yeah. I don't think I told her what the manches is.
Yeah.
Okay, so No Manches section is where you bring up something that could be funny. It could be...
It's like a pet peeve.
It could be a funny one, or it could be something like, no manches this, why do they do this? No manches that.
I can go first.
Go for it.
I actually had two, but I'm going to say both anyway. Just because we're in the practice.
Political? Are you going political?
One's political, but I'm going to keep it short. That one's short.
It doesn't miss.
I'm going to keep that one short. What's my favorite state that I like to come after?
Florida.
Florida. You know how they started banning like African studies and things like that?
Yeah.
They recently just tried to ban AP psychology. Right?
Really?
Yes, they recently just tried, but one of the AP psychology, but one of the judges or something vetoed that and said that's not gonna happen.
Why were they trying to?
At this point, I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. To be honest with you, they're just trying to ban anything that has to do with, I guess, thinking for yourself or thinking freely. I don't know. Like, that's what's baffling. You know what I'm saying? Psychology, AP psychology, maybe because it explores personality disorders, environments. Sexualities. I don't know. I don't know what it can be.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very. That's why I was
did
like.
not hear about that.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, what? Like,
What
really?
source did you get that? You know, Jackie told me you got to check your sources. What source did you get this
I'll
shit
shoot
from?
it to you guys. I'll shoot it to you guys after.
All right.
But my next one is what was it? When was it? I don't know. It was like two nights ago. I went to Chili's, right? And I was reversing into a parking spot. I drive a truck. I reverse. So I had my first Brandon moment or Karen moment, right?
You did it or they did it?
No, they did it.
Okay.
So I'm reversing into the parking spot, and I see some guy. Mind you, I live in San Dimas. There's
Yeah,
a lot of predominantly white people. So I'm reversing in, and I don't know if this guy thought I was gonna pull out or not, but he hits my truck, right?
Like he hits what? Like
With his body.
Okay.
And I'm like, what? He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, reversing in. And then he kind of looked shocked, like, oh, he probably thought I was going to pull out, so he was going to say something. And then he's like, you're not supposed to reverse. I was like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to reverse? I can reverse if I want. It's a parking spot. You know, I can do whatever I want. So then he starts taking pictures of my plate, right? Just in case my foot's fucked up. I'm like, oh, so you're going to play that game. So I get off and I start recording him. Like, you know how like people have recording everything now, like situations where Karens go wild. So I start recording. He starts walking away. And I'm like, well, what was it that you're saying? You're walking perfectly fine right now. You know, like just, he gets in his car. I'm like, sir, so what is it you were saying? Excuse me? I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're talking about. So his demeanor, his attitude, the way he was speaking to me, everything completely changed.
That's a small one. That's a small
Yeah,
one.
but it's like, no manches, dude. The thing is that people and their thoughts and intentions, like, what was his intention initially to try to, like, I don't know what, pretend that he got ran over, that he got hit? What was it? You know what I mean? Like, did he walk out of the Chili's thinking, oh, there's a car, let me just jump in front of it or something? You know what I mean?
I don't think it was that. I'm gonna almost say that it is the fact that you're.
I have tinted windows, fool.
Oh, so he didn't see you?
It was nighttime. It was nighttime. I had tinted windows.
Okay, then I can explain that. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's just one of those.
Because there is people that have ill will towards others or situations that just try to take advantage of it. So my no manches is just like, come on, dude. Like,
so you scared him off then? You got out the car and you
I got his plates. I have the video still.
narcoed him out. He's like, oh, she's a cholo. He probably don't know what a cholo really looks like. So he's like, oh, cholo.
And then I look back at my video and I thought I was all angry and, you know.
Yeah.
I was all talking proper, sir, and this and that. I'm like, all right, my fight or flight's improving. Yeah,
I still don't have one. I'm scared.
Don't worry, we'll come up with one for you.
I'm thinking of one that I like had today. On my way here.
Oh, I thought here I was like, what?
I'm like right now. No. Road rage. Like some people really. What is it called when they tailgate you?
Oh yeah. They're
Riding your ass?
they're riding your ass like they're riding you, pues.
No, eso no me gusta.
No.
Yeah, like I consider myself a very cautious driver, and I mean I drive a Jeep, right? So it's a big car.
With the bars and the lights on it.
It's a big car, but I'm also not like a let's go off roading. Not yet. Maybe one day, you know. But yeah, like someone was tailgating me, and there was so much space on the freeway, right? So it's like, why are you choosing? Are you choosing violence today, bro? Like,
You woke up and chose violence.
You guys are bringing some violent no manches today. Confrontational shit.
Projecting for or anger.
Hey, you know what? I want to say my apologies. I didn't mean to be right behind you like that. I was probably because I was like, fuck, Cisco's going to get mad at me. I'm fucking running late. Nah, I'm just kidding. It wasn't me.
Yeah. So just that, I guess. No
so road rage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite common. You should understand. A lot of people say car-related things for their no manches. Turn signals, you know, riding up against the other person.
Fucking
behind,
hitting
bumper to
people,
bumper,
you know what I'm saying?
hitting people.
You know what? I do want to apologize because I have been a road rager. So
Me too.
You're like confession, honesty hour?
yeah, exactly. So I want to say on behalf of all road ragers out there, I'm sorry. I think it's
Are you the road rager that flips people off and honks too?
no. I honk. Okay, so
You honk? Why would you honk if you're the one that's riding up against someone else?
so check this out. So
Let's get into it.
where were you driving? What lane were you on?
It was on when you come to get the Pasadena, the 210. What is that?
210?
The 57 North.
Okay.
You know how there's 3 lanes?
Were you in the far left or in the far right?
I was in the middle. I'm like minding my own business. Listen.
So you were in the
was in the middle.
3. You were in the middle.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there was no carpool lane, so it was just
Gotcha.
like I was just middle.
No
Cruising.
cars on the side, no cars on the right.
No traffic.
So he could have gone around or whatever.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, let me just. I mean, I don't know what.
That's
they
fucked
were...
up. I don't do that. I don't go to that extreme. But if you're on the left lane and you're driving 60 miles an hour, which is probably the speed limit, get out of my way.
It doesn't matter.
Go to the right lane.
It doesn't
Go to
matter.
the viejito lane. You know what I'm saying? Go to the.
It's an unwritten rule, I guess, in a sense, but it doesn't
saying,
matter.
Get out of my way. I'm gonna be driving 80, 85. You know what I'm saying? So, I would be, but
Do
I'm
you
saying.
have any speeding tickets?
Don't jinx me. I haven't gotten one in a couple years.
Speeding, carpool. What else you got?
have.
I know you have.
I got out of it once. I was coming from the VA. I used to work at the VA in West LA, and traffic is just brutal coming from West LA to Baldwin Park. When I lived in Baldwin Park, it would take me. It's like a 25-mile drive, which in no traffic is like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But in traffic, it's a 2.5-hour, 3-hour drive. And I would fucking hate it. I'm like, oh my God, I get off at 4:30, wouldn't get home until 7. So I'm like, I hate it. So I would cheat. I would go in the carpool lane. I would fucking whatever, right? And one day, right there coming on the 710, right after the Costa LA, me metí
Carpooling.
el carpool lane.
Oh, that's where it opens up, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it opens up. Me metí, and I didn't realize I cut off a highway patrol.
How do you not realize that?
Porque no lo miré, venía de lejos.
Okay.
Era una troca. So he was on a truck.
The
And
SUVs.
The SUV. So no se podía, no, I couldn't distinguish it. Because now they're like fucking sneaky. They don't have the big ass, the lights
have
on
like
top.
on their lights,
They don't have the big ass antennas. They look like regular cars now for the most part. Most of them. And I mean, they all look like cars. I don't want to, because somebody's going to say, oh, duh, they're all cars. They look like a normal vehicle, not a police vehicle. So anyways.
Except they have tinted windows and no tags. And
Yeah, pretty much.
Bars.
But remember, it's 7 o'clock at night. It's already dark. I just seen lights far away. I couldn't distinguish it. So I fucking me metí. Pero yo cuando me meto, pues no me voy a meter and slow down, because I hate that shit too. If you're going to cut me off with speed so I don't fucking crash into you. And so me metí and I sped, and sure enough, prende las luces del way. And I'm like, fuck, I feel so stupid.
But he got you for the white lines first,
hold
right?
up.
And then he saw you alone.
He saw me alone. Got me for the white lines. No tenía el fast track, because it's a fast track. So he pulls me to the side, and he's fucking pissed, because I cut him off. Literally, he could have hit me.
With no speed.
And he was like, are you kidding me? You just cut me off. And I busted the veteran card. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. I just haven't taken my medication. And I need to get home to take my medication.
I'm like,
So-
don't do this at home.
Yeah, don't do this. Don't fucking do this, okay?
Sir, if you're watching now, you know the truth.
Hey, this is years ago. This is like 8 years ago. And so, like, he was cool. He was like, do you need medical attention? You know, he got worried, right? Because he's like, oh shit, a veteran, and if he is really having a crisis, lo voy a ayudar. And I'm like, no, sir, I don't need to go to the hospital. I just need to really get home and take my pill. No, but I'm literally fool. I'm hiding the Red Bull that I was drinking and shit, because I had a Red Bull. I'm like, this was the Red Bull, and I'm telling him I haven't taken my medication. He's gonna be like, really, motherfucker? You're suffering, and then you're drinking a Red Bull?
Sleep apnea, fool.
I don't know. So he goes, follow me. He doesn't give me a ticket. All right? I'm like, oh, yes. He takes me back to the carpool lane. And not only does he take me back to the carpool lane, he's flashing his lights in front of me so that I could go behind him and putiza.
Oh, that's
I'm
sweet.
like, I know.
That's-
I felt like a dirtbag. I did feel like a dirtbag. That was a fucking.
Oh,
So,
That's a nice moment.
Yeah.
It's a good experience. It's not a bad.
yeah.
that is a not no manches.
Yeah, it's not a no manches. My no manches is different. My no manches, actually, my primo me dijo. He brought up a good thing yesterday, and I think you're gonna go have micheladas after, huh?
Mm-hmm.
He said, how come every time there's restaurants or places where you order a michelada, and sometimes they'll give it to you either in a vaso or in the actual botella, pero le ponen michelada mix and chamoy hasta abajo de la, like, you know, like, this is the cup, and they put michelada all over here. Like, how the fuck are you supposed
The
to?
chamoy drips.
No. Sometimes they like,
The
They do this
the
shit.
tajin does it. Well, yeah, but they don't turn the cup sideways. They just.
there's places that have.
What, do they have a little handle? Like, where
No.
you...
Some
No,
do.
well, yes, some do.
Some do.
Yeah.
Pero como, okay, I got in trouble in Cabo. Everything happened in Cabo. I got in trouble in Cabo for licking the rim of a
Yeah, you're not
michelada.
supposed to do that.
How the
why
fuck
not?
am I gonna eat it?
No, you use your finger. You don't lick the rim. Like,
Yeah, I got in trouble. I was buzzing it. I was drinking my michelada, and I'm not gonna do it. I licked the rim, and I kept licking it, and they're like, "Dude, don't fucking do that again." And I'm like, "Why?"
Was this a guy's
It
trip?
was a homeboy. No, it was girls and guys.
Ah, okay.
But even the girls said that. Yeah, you're not supposed to lick that shit. And I'm like,
I mean, first of all, so half the time they don't wash them right, but
no, it
But the
was a
fact that-
plastic cup. It was a plastic cup.
okay, but
It was
still, yeah, you don't do that. That's just a thing.
Then how the fuck am I supposed to eat the chamoy?
With your finger.
That's
Honestly, I do it like how you do it.
okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm like, come on.
I'm like, no shame. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm fucking licking the
Here's a real question: straw or no straw when you're drinking micheladas?
no straw.
no straw.
Okay, good.
No straw.
Yeah.
No straw, yeah.
Yeah,
You
no
want to get the
mess.
tajin, you want to get the chamoy
You
around.
want to lick it for that's the whole
Well,
point.
see,
They
but
put
that's the
shit in
thing. I don't
cup.
think you should lick it. If you're gonna drink from it, just turn it from the next one you're gonna drink.
Okay, so
Oh,
how, okay,
that's a good.
okay,
trick.
so how do you do it? Let me see.
I just drink my michelada and I turn
Twist.
the cup, and then
But you still got to lick.
no, it has it around the rim.
I don't know. I eat the whole fucking chamoy and all that shit.
So you're having candy, but you're having your drink aparte. You're not drinking it together.
No, you're drinking it together. You lick it and then you drink.
I'll let you guys know how it goes. Now it's gonna be in my head.
It's
I
just
guess
like
I
fun.
subconsciously just
Yeah.
like somehow it's gone. At
right
the
now when
end.
you go,
Yeah.
like
Right.
do it. Just
Just
I'm a
text
test-
us, be like,
I'm a
hey,
test it
I
different.
licked the rim. And, yeah. I'm a licker. I mean, wait, you guys take everything out of context. I'm a licker when it comes to the rim.
so was that your no manches?
No.
what was your? We just went up. I don't know
What
what
the
your
fuck
no
was my
manches.
no manches for reals? Oh, yeah.
About the
Yeah, like why would they do that shit if they don't want you to lick it? No manches. Like, what the fuck? How are you supposed to lick it?
Okay, see,
aesthetics.
yeah, it's like okay, like when they put like all the things on top. You like you don't need the celery, do you?
No.
Then why not? If
Hey,
it's
why not?
Yeah.
I eat the celery.
No, that's what I'm saying. When I said why not, like why don't you eat it? If it's part of it, like,
Because I don't like celery, period.
but when they put all these things, it's aesthetics.
It's
like,
aesthetics.
remember
it's for
that-
the look.
yeah. Remember that one drink I got?
It's for the
picture you have?
pictures. You know, you gotta take a picture and
But
stuff.
the michelada has that. The michelada has no celery.
Sometimes they do. No, they do add celery.
What?
I hate
That's a Bloody Mary.
micheladas. I hate micheladas that don't have
Bloody Mary
michelada
Micheladas,
Micheladas,
they've
mix.
given me to man.
I hate micheladas that don't have michelada mix.
I think Via Mart does it with celery too. They put the celery in there.
I can't remember.
Which one is a drink that does not have clamato? What's the name of that?
Chelada?
Is chelada?
I think it's chelada.
I think I prefer chelada instead of like the
You don't like the clamato?
the clamato. I don't know if my stomach don't do well with that.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Like,
Just give me the michelada mix
see, exacto.
with the beer.
Then it doesn't taste like
Lemon
michelada.
juice. What do you mean? The michelada mix.
It's
the
bomb.
Mix. Not clamato.
I don't like it like that.
You
I
like the clamato?
I like to take a taste a little bit. It's kind of like Bloody Marys. You like Bloody Marys, and I hate Bloody Marys. They taste
I like
too,
it because of the
Wait, what's the
vodka.
difference? Oh, it has. Wait,
One has
Bloody Marys
cerveza.
have vodka?
Vodka, yeah.
What?
What did you think they had?
I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. I'm just.
She's
kidding.
like, I was tipsy. Yeah, Bloody Marys have.
Wait, that's some harsh stuff.
I don't know why it's a hangover cure. Why Bloody Marys are a hangover cure then?
I think it's the tomate, the clamato, and all that shit that they put in there.
I don't know.
You ever had a Bloody Maria?
No, what is it?
It's the Bloody Mary, but with,
But like
with
tequila?
tequila, yeah. I had it in Temecula. There was a restaurant in Temecula. Se llama El Espada or El Espadín or
For
something.
brunch?
Oh yeah,
For
the
brunch.
corner one.
Yeah.
The corner
It's a
one,
nice
uh-huh.
one. Yeah. They have a Bloody Maria, and I had it there. And I was like, oh, shit. I mean, it tastes the same. It's just the alcohol. But,
Oh yeah, they always do that. Mixing and matching,
yeah.
switching it up.
Anyways, we're over here giving you alcohol tips and all that shit.
I know for real.
I mean,
From the
it's
experts.
not like we don't have a collection of bottles here.
But yeah, anyway. I'm not
Back
gonna-
to you. We're gonna finish off the podcast. We like to finish off with words of wisdom. You've already have said a lot of good things that are gonna be beneficial for me. Are gonna be beneficial for a lot of our listeners. But tell us something that you live by or that you apply in your daily life that somebody can take and apply to their life.
Don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer in silence. Whether it is like reaching out to a best friend, reaching out to a friend, reaching out to a family member, a loved one, it truly can make such a difference when you just share with someone what you're going through. Because sometimes like the response that you will get is with love and care. And, you know, sometimes we just need that reassurance of like, okay, they got me. You know, I'm not doing life alone, even though it may feel like we are doing life alone sometimes. But when you have a good support system and they're riding with you through thick and thin, they're going to be there no matter what. So don't suffer in silence would be like my top tier words of wisdom.
Nice.
Damn, that hits.
I know. Sometimes,
that hits.
sometimes we're just scared, huh? I mean,
You know, it's being scared, but I think it's also just what we learn. For me, even for me, like communication. Like my first instinct always was shut down. Like if I'm having communication issues, I just shut down and completely detach myself from the situation. And it's being in silence, so that's what it is. We just, you know, like we just don't want to speak up. Right or wrong, whatever we got to say, we just shut down and rather not go to it.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay to see a therapist too. It's okay for you to shop around. And if one therapist isn't the fit for you, there's many out there that you can still have consultations with. And most therapists that are in private practice, they offer a 15 to 20 minute case consultation. And they talk about like maybe I share what I work with and share the interventions and kind of let them know a little bit more of how I work, and it's up to them if they want to work with me, right?
Yeah.
So finding someone who, like if you're looking into starting therapy, finding a therapist that you can relate to and that you can be yourself with, I think that's key, because it's a lot of, hey, here's my dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do with this?
You're basically in a relationship without, in a personal relationship.
A
with somebody.
therapeutic relationship,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like I read this comment the other day that someone left on my previous post, and they were like something around the lines of, my therapist has been the most consistent thing the last 7 years. And that was so powerful.
Wow. Yeah.
That was so powerful because people come and go sometimes, and like seeing that comment, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's so true. The most consistent thing, especially like at least for the past 3 years, has also been my therapist, who has seen me transition through many things since 2021. Like, yeah. and it's so interesting to, like, as a therapist who is also a client, how they bring different perspectives to your situation.
Yeah.
And it's like a mic drop most sessions. It wasn't like that at the beginning though, because it was like, estaba bien forzada, estaba bien cerrada.
Sí.
So it takes a while to like really like say like, oh, so I'm the problem. Okay. Okay.
Dang, you just made me think of a question. You think that's healthy though? For example, I don't know, can it be negative? That person that commented, the only constant thing in my life has been my therapist for 7 years. You think that could be a negative as well?
So, of course, like being mindful that like, being mindful of, is this space, am I dependent to this person, right? Being mindful of that. When you're in private practice though, it's a little different, because this is a space where you go, especially as an adult, and if you add more to the equation, like your work, your relationships, family, there's always going to be something that we could work through, right? It could be very manageable to see a therapist one time a month for you to come and process things that happen in your life. In some places, this is actually, I think it's in Argentina. Don't. Someone in my past shared with me this. I don't know if it's in Argentina. Maybe there. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that it's almost like if you have a doctor, you should also have a therapist, right? So if you have a doctor and you have yearly checkups and, you know, you take care of your physical health, why not have also a therapist that can just help you through guidance and unpacking things that happen in our day to day? So that's just my opinion with those things.
Come on, U.S. We got to have a better healthcare system, dog.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I know there's a lot going on that you're doing. Your social media. You have an ebook. You have that people can download. You have your clothing line. Can you tell us a little bit about all that stuff?
I got into like you mentioned earlier, interior design is your thing. Well, like I also have a love in creating different things, and the thought that came about, I love wearing oversized crew necks, like when I'm at home, and you know when I'm feeling like my hard days. I just want to put a hoodie and just watch TV and chill, right? And so it came from that idea. Like I wear baggy things when I feel when I don't feel my best, and I was like, well, how about creating something that I can offer for people that maybe this could be like their security blanket, you know, like it's a space for you when you're having those difficult days or when you're feeling your best, right? Either or, you wear this. And the sanando came to mind, and I also wanted to highlight the roots. So the colors, where I come from. There was a season in my life where I was drawn to nudes, and I wanted to be like aesthetically, the aesthetics. And then I really explored like, how come I'm not wearing colors, right? If our cultura is so colorful. And when I dived into my why, I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So then I brought more color into my work. I brought more color into my life. And also like when I created this design, which says sanando, and atrás dice rompiendo cadenas, if you guys can see it. It was my first design, and it did really well. So this is a soft launch. Actually, I'm bringing shirts with the Sanando logo and the Rompiendo Cadenas logo. That's going to be dropping for Hispanic Heritage Month. So
nice. You guys heard it here first.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's cool. Where else can people find you? How can somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to either get your clothing line, or they wanted maybe seek therapy?
Or just even look at her social page and follow that.
Yeah, the only socials that I have for my work is Therapy Lux. So you can find me on Therapy Lux, and I am not able to respond to DMs because I am a clinical therapist, licensed, and I can't offer advice if we're not working together. Right. So even when I do the comment section, like y'all can reach out through the comments. However, I keep things very general approach.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also for legal purposes and stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We want to thank you for coming. I know it was rescheduled, but it turned out to be great. You know, it was a better thing. You got a lot of things going on, your launch and everything. You were able to bring that. What you're doing on social media, the people you're helping indirectly, even not through your practice. Keep doing what you're doing. We're big fans, and we're going to keep supporting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Keep smiling.
This was such a... Now I'm going to have it in my mind. I guess I do
That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
I do talk with a smile sometimes.
Yeah,
They're contagious. Remember, smile for someone, you never know, it changes their day.
Yeah, that's true.
So
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Definitely, I'm glad we rescheduled, porque last time I was not mentally prepared. So I'm glad that, we were here and that we got this.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed today's session and
You're like therapy session?
I know. Let me know about the Michelada.
let us know.
We're gonna do a poll.
Yeah, we should do a poll.
Yeah. About, do you lick the rim or
do you use your finger or do you twist the cup? But anyways, guys, remember, mental health is no joke. If you guys need help, make sure you reach out to someone, anybody. It's a big thing, and we want to thank you guys.
Hey, hold on. Be safe. Labor Day weekend's coming up. Please be safe.
Sure.
All right? Just be safe.
All right, peace out.
Thank you.